Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So it's been all but confirmed that Bullseye and Elektra are both going to join Daredevil Season 2 in some capacity. So this is going to be a quick breakdown of his history in the comics. There was this rumor going around that Jason Statham had been offered the part, but in a separate statement, he kind of took a verbal dump on the superhero genre, so he's not really an option. Just like they did casting Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, I think they're going to go with a slightly less well-known actor. Someone who's not crazy expensive and will work really well with the cast that they already have. That's a big problem across the board for all kinds of TV shows and movies. You know, they find great actors, but for some reason, they just don't work really well with the existing cast. Most of you are probably familiar with the Colin Farrell version of the character from the Ben Affleck movie. He has this really, weird psycho energy about him. A lot of people are, hoping that he'll return to the role. I don't think that's going to be the case, even though he is doing TV. Like, he's one of the main actors on True Detective Season 2. The big takeaway is, just don't be surprised if the person that ends up being Bullseye is someone you've never heard of before. And that's not a bad thing at all. I'm kind of expecting the same treatment for Elektra, them just finding an actress that's not necessarily a huge A-list star, but someone who works really well with Charlie Cox and the rest of the cast. How many of you guys knew exactly who Charlie Cox was when he was cast? And he's actually done a few big things. But this is all about Bullseye, so here's his comic book history. So his real name is supposedly Lester. We haven't heard a last name. Every time he's shown up, he's always referred to as Bullseye. He started out in 1976 in Daredevil 131 in a story called Watch Out for Bullseye, He Never Misses. Bullseye, looking for publicity, goads Daredevil into a public fight by killing someone in broad daylight. Rewinding back in time, they changed his backstory a couple times, but let's start with the original one first. As a child, he grew up in the Bronx with a brother and a really abusive father. One of his favorite things to do with his brother was practice with rifles, so eventually he became an expert marksman, all before the age of 10. His brother ended up setting fire to their apartment to try and get rid of their crappy dad, and Bullseye got placed in foster care. Eventually, his marksmanship skills made him this amazing baseball pitcher, which ended up being a ticket to the majors, but this is where things go sour. So he's pitching a game and kicking everyone on the other team's ass, like throws a complete no-hitter, gets so bored, he asks his coach to take him out. Coach refuses. The batter for the other team starts taunting him, so he throws the ball, hits the batter in the head, kills him, and that's kind of like the beginning of his illustrious criminal career. They retcon that during Elektra's solo title. He gets captured by the US government and tells them his origin story, but everyone kind of thinks that he's lying. In the newer origin story, he grew up in a trailer park, still had an abusive dad that he tried to kill and make look like an accident, but it didn't work out. He was eventually recruited by the NSA for his skills as an assassin, trained a rebel group in Nicaragua, tried to take over this cocaine business, get involved with the mob, but it all went south when Punisher showed up. He ended up drawing a bullseye on his forehead using his own blood, just as a way to taunt Punisher for not being able to hit him with a bullet. This is before he got his Bullseye costume. So he crawls away, turns himself into DEA agents. They tell him to infiltrate the Kingpin's crime organization. He eventually goes rogue and becomes this great assassin for hire. Like I said though, a lot of people feel like that's false narration. He actually tried to get himself captured so that they would take him to the prison where his father was being held and he could get revenge on him, which he did. The only thing that's confirmed about his backstory though is that he hates his father, like he had a really shitty relationship with him. That's what happens whenever a criminal tells you their backstory. You never know if they're telling the truth. So moving along, he became part of Thunderbolts during Marvel's Civil War, battled the Skrulls during Secret Invasion, then became the new Hawkeye in Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers. During the Dark Reign era, whenever Daredevil had taken control of the hand, Osborn orders Bullseye to take him down. Even though he wasn't successful, he did end up killing a whole bunch of people and making Daredevil feel responsible for it. He enjoys taking shots at heroes when he gets the chance, even if he can't kill them. That's one of the character traits I feel like Colin Farrell nailed. Bullseye is completely sadistic. If you've been reading Daredevil lately, like in the last couple years, you might also be familiar with Lady Bullseye, who's a completely different person. I think the TV show is going to go with the original version of Bullseye, the male version, but Lady Bullseye helps make original Bullseye way more complex of a character, way more interesting. Her real name is Maki Matsumoto. As a child in Japan, she was taken in by the Yakuza, forced into sex slavery, and eventually was rescued or accidentally rescued by the original Bullseye. He was in town on a completely unrelated mission, killed all the people that were her captors on his business. She was inadvertently freed and was so inspired by what Bullseye did that she wanted to become a killer too. She ended up joining the Hand, got involved in this plot using Matt Murdock's then wife, Mila Donovan, ended up killing Kingpin's girlfriend, blaming Matt Murdock just as a way to cause some chaos, try to get Kingpin to start going after Daredevil again, then used the whole mess to take control of the Hand herself. She also appeared in Black Widow's solo title on a mission to injure Pepper Potts. As opposed to the original Bullseye, she really doesn't have any notable powers. She's more martial arts based. Here's my big question for you guys. Do you want to see a version of Lady Bullseye on the show, or do you just want them to keep it simple and go with the original version? Just to clarify though, Lady Bullseye didn't replace Bullseye or anything like that. They both recently appeared. She makes Bullseye slightly more sympathetic, but he's still a pretty rotten dude. So it's not like she was a gender-bent version of Bullseye. She's like the Batgirl to Bullseye's Batman. But if you guys want to read some cool Bullseye storylines, read Daredevil 181. That's a story called Last Hand, where he goes after Elektra. Then there's Daredevil 196 to 199. It's a storyline where he gets adamantium stolen from Wolverine grafted onto his body. So he does have an adamantium skeleton. Not quite as good as Wolverine's, but they're probably not going to do that on the TV show because that's an X-Men thing. Then there's his big return from the dead in Volume 3, number 26. That's a little bit more recent. It also involves Lady Bullseye. Thunderbolt's also, really fun comic book read too, but there's a whole lot more of it. So it just depends on how deep you want to go. Logically, what's probably going to happen is Kingpin, stuck in jail, is going to hire Bullseye to take down Daredevil, and that's going to be his entry to the story. If you guys haven't seen it, I've already done a Daredevil Season 2 video where I explain the Hand and some of the storylines I think they're going to explore. I'll add a link for it in the description. I've done a couple of Daredevil Season 2 videos already. What I'll probably do for my next Daredevil video is something just entirely for the Hand, just because they're a pretty interesting organization. They show up quite a bit. While you guys wait for that, you can click here for my Daredevil Season 2 predictions, along with an explainer on Elektra. And you can click here to learn about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. James Gunn's just been dropping a bunch of details. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.